Welcome to the Stargate Oral History Project. My name is David Reed. We are in our 6th season, and when I started this show, I had no idea it would get to where it is now. I've had the privilege of bringing a number of folks on over the years and getting to learn their Stargate stories. There are a few, though, that I've wanted to invite back because I want us to hear more about them. And I think that there are a number of folks who have interesting stories to tell that are tangential to Stargate and not just completely enveloped by it. Tom McBeath played Harry Maybourne, Jacqueline Samuda played Nirrti, and Garwin Sanford played Narim and Simon Wallace. We are bringing them together for a roundtable discussion that we recorded this past December in Vancouver for a very special hour and a half, a little bit more, to engage them in a new way. And Jacqueline led this discussion, and it was so nice to not be in it. So this will be the last that you see of me on these roundtables. These actors and crew are going to tell the stories themselves. This is a little way of preserving a little bit more of them. And I hope you enjoy watching it as much as we enjoyed filming it.
So Stargate's back. It is so exciting. I was actually, I don't often go on X anymore, but I went on X and I was tagged in a post, and a big Stargate fan had done this massive celebratory tweet and tagged me in it, and I was thrilled. And so then I did a little bit of a search and found the very, very cool interview with Brad and Martin. And I mean, it was just like so great. So then I sent a message to Brad, because some people know Brad and I go back all the way to university. I've seen the Man in Tights. You know, we did theater studies together. So I sent him a tweet just saying, this is like really great news. My big question about it still is, where is it going to shoot? And what's the format going to be? So I'm kind of excited. What about you?
I heard from David Reed.
Did you?
That's how I found out. So I checked in. I actually went, when it was live, I checked it out when it was being sent out. So yeah, it was very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, likewise with me, Mr. Reed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
He's more excited than I am, though.
Now, have you heard anything about where it's going to shoot or anything like that?
Not another word, other than that they're going ahead. No format, no idea of what the show is. It was somewhere it was, I read, I don't remember where it was, but they said there would be someone from the original series in it at some point.
Make a bridge of some kind.
I have no idea. That was all but I don't know where I saw that.
Yeah, because you're kind of in a unique position, Garwin, because you actually did Stargate Atlantis as well as, you know, so you played different characters.
The fans didn't like that.
Oh, really? Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
They were like, wait, we recognize that guy.
we got lots of, I'm not sure, there's a lot of reasons why they didn't continue me. Because I was, as everybody knows, I was a love interest for Amanda's character in the first one. And then they brought me back as the husband for Tori, right?
Boyfriend.
Yeah, no, it was husband originally. Oh. Yes. So the first episode, I'm her husband. Mm-hmm. I come home, and there's a message on the television saying, "Hi, honey, I'm leaving." And I try to call her, and it says, "Your recipient is out of range." And I go, "Yeah, no kidding." So, but then they decided that the husband was too much because she's away, and so they made it a boyfriend.
Okay.
And then after a few episodes, they realized she couldn't have any love interests in space. She couldn't, right?
Limiting.
So they had an episode where she comes back to Earth. And of course, it's where they're all dying and the aliens are giving what they want. So she sees me. And then the next episode, she comes home for real, and I tell her, sorry, honey, you've been gone too long.
My God.
And then I was told that there was a newspaper article that I was dead in a car crash, but then they never showed it, so I don't know how that was revealed. But the fans were writing in going, oh, come on, it's the same universe. He's Narim. You didn't even make him look different. They were upset. There was so I think there was a lot of reasons why my character didn't continue in the second.
Right. But at least you had a noble death as Narim.
What? No, I didn't die. Not there.
Oh, okay.
It blew up.
Yes.
And they show a big explosion, and then at the very end of the episode, we hear, I'm talking on the radio, and then it cuts out. So
Okay.
at the 100th anniversary, 100th episode party,
Yeah.
the producer said, we're thinking we're going to bring you back as a Goa'uld.
Cool.
So and they never did. I wish they had have done that.
Wow.
I kept it quiet all through the whole thing while they were still airing, because I was hoping, because what a great arc for milquetoast Narim to end up as Zapata.
Yeah.
I think it was Zapata they were going to put in there, but anyway.
Cool.
What
Yeah.
was it? Chloral. David sets us straight.
Yeah. You stayed in the Stargate SG-1 universe, right?
I wasn't allowed to audition for the other one.
Yeah.
Just because I was, the character was,
Established. Yeah.
and my limited talent just allowed me to play the one character. So.
Yeah.
And I was in a perfect spot.
You had a massive arc. You had a massive character arc.
Yeah, well, it was over 13 episodes, but it was over 8 seasons, so that was nice.
Was it always a surprise when you came back?
It was, yeah, it actually was. Because the first time I was hired was as a military guy, and I'm not a military guy, and I couldn't understand. I was really nervous about the fact that they'd hired me for it, and could I actually do it? And then they kept me in, and finally when I got out of the uniform, then I felt I got comfortable after that.
I think you underestimate your intimidation factor.
Well,
You have the first lead I did in a Canadian feature was a thing called Quarantine,
mine as well.
and he was a cop who is very menacing. And there's one scene in particular, they come running in and they're roughing me up and they're going to kill me. And then he goes, oh, wait, oh, Spencer boy, I didn't recognize you there. And you start laughing. Then he says a few very unveiled threats, goes to the door, and just as he leaves, he goes, see ya. I've never forgotten that. That still sticks in my head. I love that piece. That's what he's good at. Right? He intimidates, and all of a sudden he'll just turn, see ya.
Well, when I could get the devil into me, that's when I got comfortable. And I think actually I was still in uniform, and I think it was, which episode here? Just let me look. I can tell you what episode it was.
Watergate.
It was it was probably Watergate, where I came to talk him into coming with me.
That's Shades of Grey.
The Chains of Grey. Okay, yeah. So, and being on his deck with them and trying to talk him into coming along. And there I got the devil into me, and that's where I started to get comfortable with the character. But I was always surprised every time the next time I was hired, they added another dimension to him. So he kept really growing. And
So cool.
But they write.
Great.
You see, this is the thing about series.
Yeah.
They write to you. What you show them inspires the writers. They watch and go, oh man.
That triggers something. Let's do something with that.
So
Yeah.
they will then add more and more.
Yeah.
As you show that you're capable of doing it, they're going to write to you. And that's what I watched with that. Your character was a huge arc for that character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the episode of Watergate, wasn't there an interesting story about Corneas?
Yeah.
Have you heard this?
No.
Okay.
So when they found me, I'd gone over to the Russians, and they found me in the Stargate that was under the ocean, and everyone was frozen. And so when they brought me up, I was frozen, and they realized it was me. And so they brought me and they put me on a table. So we were at the old expo site, in one of the kitchens, and they put me under a table, and they turned on the red lights over top, the ones that keep the meals warm.
Oh, yes.
The
Oh, my God.
infrared stuff. So I'm laying there, and my eyes are open, and I'm laying there, and we filmed the scene and stuff, and eventually I come to life, and some breath comes out, and then everybody starts having to get away from the stuff that's coming out of my mouth. But later on in the day, my eyes are getting kind of blurry and foggy. And so I went to see the lady and who was ever in charge of the medical stuff, and she put some stuff in my eyes, and they got worse, and they didn't get really bad, but they stayed. And it was really odd, and it wasn't till the evening when I was at home laying in bed going, oh, I was under those infrared lights with my eyes open. My eyes were being cooked.
Oh my!
None of them knew it.
Oh no!
Oh my gosh.
So that was.
Oh, and it's so risky.
Yeah.
Like anything with the eyes as an actor. I did a movie once, and the setting was in a barn, and one of the PAs was sweeping some of the chaff, but was interested in what the actors were talking about, so kept sweeping closer and closer to us, and swept chaff in my face. I didn't know it until that night, and I realized I've got a scar in my eye. Now my eye is fully bloodshot on one side. So I phoned makeup and I said, listen, I think I'm going to need a little attention in the morning because my eye's fully bloodshot. Next thing I know, executive producer phones me. They've got a ophthalmologist to come in after hours for me to go in and have my eye looked at. And it was going to be okay. It was scratched, and they had to shoot around it. Like they could only shoot this part of my face because, the risk. Oh my God! Yeah. But you recovered okay?
Oh yeah, no, it came back fine.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, you remember the days when they smoked up the rooms with mineral oil?
Well, yeah.
Oh.
Right? They don't do that anymore, but in the early part, because we've been doing this for 200 years, but they used to smoke it up with mineral oil into the air, and I was in a plane crash movie. I was the pilot. So they made a bigger tube of this private aircraft so they get cameras in, but they smoked it, they tented it off and smoked it up. So the first day I spent the whole day in the tube, and I wasn't much from leaving and going to sit at the chairs because it was a long ways away. So the next morning I wake up, I open up my eyes, and it's fog. Oh. I'm going, what? I couldn't see. So I'm going, what the hell is going on? I start rubbing my eyes, and they sort of slowly start to open up. Then I realized what had happened. I've been breathing the oil for 12 hours. So it had gone through my sinuses and then out through my tear ducts.
Oh my God.
So the oil had coated my eyeballs overnight. So I went, okay, so from then on, every second I wasn't in the tube filming, I was out somewhere else. And I, sitting there with the producer, I said, I think actually I died on the way here in a plane crash, and I'm in hell because I'm stuck in a little tube with a bunch of actors. Right? And you smoked it up, it's hot and uncomfortable. She found it amusing, but it was one of the most horrible. But it's amazing. Oh. My mother used to say, I used to fly planes. She was always worried every day it was nice out I would get killed. When I was acting, she thought, oh, well, it's safe. And I've been closer to dying on so many different shows or been hurt or injured on movie sets than any time I would have been in an airplane.
Yeah, absolutely.
God.
Well, we were talking about your character, and you have a costume piece with you.
That. Yes, I do.
We were talking about Christina McQuarrie, and you were asking about my costume. Mm-hmm. And did you see the episode Metamorphosis,
yes.
the last one?
Yeah.
And that's talk about surprises, because I have a story credit on that, and I had pitched the story to Brad Wright. We'd had dinner, and I pitched this story. He said, this is interesting. Let me take it into the room, and let's see what we're going to do. And he says, yeah, we're gonna go forward with it, and we're gonna take some ideas, and but James Titchener was up to write a script, so he's gonna write it, you're gonna have a story credit. And then I get the script, and I'm so excited. Here's my script, my name is on it, and I read it, and I die. And I'm like, I didn't write that part. I did not write that part. But, you know, for Nirrti, one of the most amazing things was always wardrobe.
Yeah.
I still remember the first time and walking into the wardrobe room and seeing a full wardrobe factory, like from when I worked at the Shaw Festival, and you'd go in and it was great artists doing the most incredible, intricate work. And she showed me the fabric that was going to be used on the bodice piece in the very first episode. And it was crusted in semi-precious stones. And it was just a small piece. And she said, don't tell anybody. They're actually semi-precious stones. But she was so amazing. And then my character, of course, dies in Metamorphosis. But then I got to come back in Continuum, where a bunch of Goa'ulds come back and in whatever form, and they did a muslin mock-up, you know, as they do in theater too, a full gown all done in muslin, and it was so gorgeous in the muslin, I asked if I could have it. And she laughed. It was like, oh, no. Like, absolutely not. But I would have worn that to a party, like even in just cotton. It was so incredible. And I loved seeing your character come back as a king. That was so incredible.
I went to a con in Germany this year, FedCon, I think it was called. And I hadn't been to one for years and years and years, probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 or 15 years. So I was nervous again, and I didn't really, I thought it was, I don't look into stuff, and I should more often. I thought it was just a Stargate con, but it was a sci-fi con, so all the sci-fi shows were there. But I thought, there's one way that the Stargate fans would remember who I was, and that was how I ended up being King Archon off on another planet with my wives. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll make myself the crown that was made for the character. So I hunted around town, and I found a leather shop, and I got the leather, and I got different kinds of leather, and I spent a couple of weeks making the crown that was like the crown that I wore in the show. And I had some good pictures of it, so I mucked around, and I didn't sew all this stuff, I just put little black marks on it to make it look
That's
like
so great.
And I didn't have any gold stuff, so this is just candy wrapper stuff from some chocolate bar on the inside. And the nice tie thing at the back was I managed to get a shot from behind me, and it's pretty much what it looked like. And it looked really good.
It's amazing. It's perfect.
So I had lots of fun doing it, and I wore it for about 10 minutes when I was at the con. And the fans all enjoyed it, and nobody wanted to buy it, but I didn't have it up for sale. So
Right. Well, that's fantastic.
Anyways, I thought I would bring it today just to show off that I can make props and costumes.
The first con that I did was Blackpool, England, and you're talking about being nervous and not knowing where the fans going to recognize me. And I didn't even understand what a con really was at this point.
That was the same one I went to.
Yeah, this was a different one. My very first one, early days. And I was told, okay, all you're going to do one by one, I've told this story at conventions since, but one by one, you're going to just cross the stage and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and my signing will be tomorrow at such and such. So that's what I understood I was going to do. I'm in the green room. It's an absolutely massive, like airplane hangar, massive. Huge stage. They have a huge Stargate on the stage, and I hear some of the actors go out, and they are hilarious. They're like stand-up comics. They're da-da-da-da-da-da, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not prepared. I'm not ready to be funny. And they say, okay, everyone's going to go, and then he turns to me and he says, except you. What you're going to do is you're going to be backstage, and you're going to get into a sarcophagus, and in the sarcophagus is a live mic. and we're going to push you through the Stargate with a lot of lights and sound effects and smoke. And then the lid of the sarcophagus is going to pull back with a big sound effect, and there's going to be two Jaffa standing on each side, and they're going to help you out of your sarcophagus. And so I heard this the night before, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to buy a new outfit because I need pants. I have to climb out of a sarcophagus. So I run out, I buy a suit, I climb into the sarcophagus with this live mic, and the fans are going crazy out there, and I'm like, they're not even going to know who I am. This is terrifying. And with the sarcophagus, I push through the thing, smoke and music and blah, and the lid comes back. And I stand up holding this mic, and I say, I was feeling a little jet lagged, but after being in the sarcophagus, there's a mini bar in there. I feel quite fresh. Because, the sarcophagus is supposed to renew you anyway. And and everyone recognized me, and everybody went bananas. And I had no idea that they would recognize Nirrti, and it was such a scream. It was just, what an introduction to the convention world. Yeah, but we did a convention in England.
Blackpool.
Yeah.
So they were supposed to be in London and then get moved to Blackpool. Yeah. That was my first one, and I was surprised because I'd only done 3 episodes.
Yeah.
But of course, because it was attached to Samantha, Amanda's character, obviously, then that was one of the reasons why. But
yeah, very important character.
But it was the same kind of thing. It's like, okay, I had no idea what to expect. Mm-hmm. And didn't realize that the fan base was so huge.
It's so huge. Yeah. I did a convention once in Australia, and it was a sci-fi convention, so it was massive, not just Stargate. Lineups around the whole thing. And I was upstairs in sort of the area where people are getting ready, and What We Do in the Shadows,
yes.
Yeah. Their movie had just come out, and they were all getting in full, like Taika Waititi and Ben Francham and all these guys getting in full vampire gear, like with the makeup and the fangs and everything. And I'm tiptoeing past them, and I had just seen the movie on the plane, so I was so excited. And oh no, I hadn't seen the movie yet. And then I realized I needed a pair of scissors to cut something off of that was dragging on something. And I went through and I met Ben Francham, who's in vampire gear. And I said, I'm just wondering if anyone has a pair of scissors. And he says, yes, here's a pair of scissors. And I say, I'm Jacqueline Samuda. I was in Stargate. He goes, I know who you are. Because he was a Stargate fan. Mm. So it was just like this incredible, that's the reach of it,
Yeah. Well, anytime you see anything on Wikipedia or anything that says Garwin Sanford, most known for his role in Stargate, right? My 3 episodes.
Yeah, the first one I had, it was in London, and whatever guest they had couldn't make it, and so I got called up about 3 days before and said, would you like to come and be a surprise guest? And there's Amanda's going to be there, and Michael's going to be there, but we're not even going to tell them that you're coming. So you'll be in a different hotel, and we'll pick you up once the day has started, once they've been introduced and they're out there. So they snuck me into the hotel, and then they snuck me on to the next hotel where the convention was. And when I walked through the Stargate, I couldn't believe it. I thought I was going to these people got to be really weird, these fan stuff. They got to be weird. And I probably stood there for 10 minutes just going, thank you, as they clapped and cheered and yelled and screamed. And I don't know how many episodes I'd done by then, maybe 4 or 5, and I was still the jerk. I wasn't the fun guy I turned into. And then I got to meet so many of them. And the fellow that ran that convention,
Brian?
Yes.
Brian,
man, what an amazing guy. He's an Alfie, the Alfie character. And when he paid you at the end, he paid you in envelopes full of pounds.
Cash. Yeah.
And he told you the best place in town to get it changed into American dollars. And so I found this place in some weird place, and I came upstairs, and I walked in with this, and when I found where it was, I looked in and went, do I really want to do this? But I walked in anyway, so I said, could I get this changed into American? And the guy looked at me like it was drug money. Yeah. But he finally said, okay.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be many more American dollars than we'd agreed on.
Yeah.
So he was a very generous man, Brian.
Well, actually, when first time I went, he took me around, met his family, he took me out to dinner, carted me around. He was really, really pleasant. I did the same thing. I wanted to change it into Canadian dollars, so I went to we were in London, and I went to this little place to do it. It's literally on a street that was cobbled, and I'm standing there, and the guy's looking at me and goes, "Well, okay, but you'll have to come back in an hour."
Oh my God.
They had to go they didn't have that much Canadian cash, right? So I went away and came back in an hour. And then I'm standing there and handing it over, and I noticed that there's a guy standing down halfway down the block watching me. And I'm thinking, okay, so I say to the guy behind the counter, I'm saying, "I'm sorry, I don't know if I want to do this cash." I said, "There's this guy standing over there, and he's really hinky." "Oh no, he's with us. We just weren't sure if you were legit or not." Like they thought I was going to come and rob the place.
Oh.
Right. I went, okay, good. Fine.
I'm an actor. I am not I play a robber on TV, but I am.
It's a strange world, actually, that I was introduced to that year.
Yeah. When did you know that you wanted to be an actor?
I never really did. I went to university for 3 years and then realized that wasn't for me. I didn't want to pursue a sociology psych double major thing. So then I discovered flying. So I started flying, and I was in Toronto Island, and I started working on I first started in Moncton, got my private license, then went to Ontario and went to the Toronto Island Flying School there. I was getting my commercial hours under, and then I said, okay, I'm going to go to BC. And I'd get mountain rated, float rated, right? Get my IFR out there and my multi-engine. And, so I got there, and I was working to get money to pay for all this because it's expensive. So there was some, lag time. And I'm shortening this as short as I can, but I found a purse in a parking lot. And the purse had ID and money, had $450 in it. I was broke, take it, don't take it, take it.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. But I couldn't, so 1980, no answering machines. I knew her name, looked her up in the phone book, called, nobody there. So she had a little address book, so I started phoning all the numbers. Finally, I get somebody, and he said, "Oh, yeah, I know her. Why?" I said, "Well, I found a purse in the parking lot." And he goes, "Was there any money in it?" And I said, "Yeah, $450. Get out of here. He was all, I said, I'll come and drop it off. So I did. 6 months, and that was it. He said, "Oh, give me your name and stuff." And I said, no, it's okay. Right? Just make sure she gets it. He goes, "Well, not a reward, but she'll want to say thank you." I said, "It's okay, right?" I figured karma, start chalking it up. 6 months later, I'm living in the basement of a house on 16th and Maple in Vancouver. She moves into the same house.
No.
So I didn't say anything. I went, no, this is too weird, right? And the reason I knew it was her is we had a communal mailbox, and I saw the name, and I remembered her name, and I went, no, okay, fine. Well, another couple months go by, and I'm picking up my mail. She's coming up to get her mail. So I hand it to her, and I got long hair. I'm a freaky looking guy, unshaven, and she backs up. She said, how do you know who I am? I said, didn't mean to scare you. Found your purse in the parking lot like 8 months ago. And she screams, "What?" And she grabs me by the wrist and starts dragging me down to the apartment. I'm going,
what's happening?
Yeah, what?
What kind of karma am I in for here?
I said I didn't want a reward.
She turns, what I'd done is she had a checkbook in the thing, so I wrote down, "Pay to the order of," didn't think you'd see this again, huh? And then put my first name, Garwin, because it's a weird name.
Yeah.
It would just be part of the story, right? She turned around and points next to the door, and that check was framed on the wall.
Oh my God.
She was at the lowest point of her life. She had lost her money. She was going on a holiday to try to figure out her life. She goes off and loses her purse and says, no. She borrows the money and goes anyway. But she comes back, gets everything returned, and she goes, "I realize there's good people in the world." And she puts that as her little touchstone. Every day she'd go out, every day, and she'd look at that check and go, "Yes, there are good people out there." And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Sit down, you're having tea. She's a theater student at UBC. And I'm a wannabe. I'm saying, well, yeah, people say I have a good voice. And, I thought it might be fun to do a commercial or something. And she didn't laugh at me. She goes, well, you know what you could do? There's a place called Studio 58. You can go there and get a audition kit, and you'll audition for the program. You won't get in. I tried. Out of 400 people, 16 get accepted. So I said, yeah, okay, well, I thought it'd be fun just to see. So I did. Anthony Holland is auditioning. I made every single mistake you can make. I did everything wrong, everything. And he comes down and he goes, what are you doing here? And he goes, well, okay. And he starts to give me notes. I have no idea what he's saying, pacing and time, all the things he's, arcs. And he realizes I don't know what he's saying. He goes, you're very green. And I said, well, isn't that what theater schools are for, to make you not green? He just shakes his head. 2 weeks later, I get an acceptance letter in the mail.
Wow.
And I went, no. So I phoned them up. And I said, I think you've made a mistake. No. I said, it says here, does that mean I'm accepted? She goes, well, I'll check. She goes back and says, yeah, we don't usually make those kinds of mistakes. Yes, you've been accepted. So I went up to the school and looked at the prospectus to see what the thing was. Don't just close the door. Acting, Shakespeare, voice, mime, dance, jazz, and modern. Fencing. Okay. I'll just go for 3 months, 4 months. I'll do the term. I'll just have some fun, and then I'll go back to flying. I just thought I'd do something for me, right? Mm-hmm. 3 years later, I graduate and go, what have I done? So I still didn't, even when I finished, I didn't really think I was going to be an actor.
Yeah. It was meant to be.
There was no choices. But I get an agent, and the first 6 auditions I went on, I got all 6 jobs. And they just started sending me out for everything, right? So it just took off, right? But it was like, I never really made that choice.
Yeah.
I just I kind of liked it at theater school, and it was good for me, so I stayed.
Yeah.
Then realized I was 25 when I went.
Yeah.
So I'm 30 when I get out, 29, going on 30.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what have I done? What have I done? I gotta go, oh God, I gotta go back, I gotta finish my training. But it completely changed, so there was no
That's amazing.
decision.
Yeah. When did you know that you wanted to be an actor?
After I'd done some amateur theater for a few years. I was a computer programmer in Winnipeg in the late 60s, early 70s. And I tried to get into the Christmas show that they were going to do for the Christmas thing that Air Canada was going to do, and just to do something, because I was quite bored and I hadn't met anybody. So I signed up to get in to do the entertainment for the Christmas show for the Christmas party for Air Canada, and met some people. And the program didn't happen because there was only one guy, me, and the rest were women, and the director said, well, either there's more people here more men next week, or we're not going to do this. So we didn't do it because no other men showed up. Then probably...
How old were you?
I was 23, I think, 22 or 23. And theater was sissy at high school. I was asked to do this stuff, and it was too sissy. We just partied and drank. So I was at a bar on a date, and there was a band. We went to see a particular band, and it was our first date. And she was more a friend than a possible date. Anyways, at the end, the bar was shut down. The band finished. And you still had like a half hour or so afterwards to finish your drinks, and she'd got up to go to the bathroom, and there was a group of women at a table singing songs that I thought my parents would know those songs, but they would just know the chorus. They wouldn't know the words to the verses. So I went over and said, how do you guys know all these? Well, we belong to an amateur musical theater group. Oh, we're auditioning for Oklahoma tomorrow. Would you like to come? And I looked up and said, and one of them popped up and said, I'll come and pick you up.
Oh my gosh!
And I said, well, okay. So I give her my address and stuff, and then I went back to the table, and the girl came back, and I didn't say anything to her that I'd gone over and met these girls. So the girl picked me up, and her name was, she changed her name to something. And I said, well, she told me she had changed her name. And I said, well, what was your real name? And she says, it was Ariadne. And I said, why would you change that? That's a beautiful name.
Yeah.
And she said, well, no one could pronounce it. So we got there to the church, and she parked, and she said, so you just go through that door there. And so I said, well, aren't you coming in? She said, and I was getting quite sweet on her. And she said, no, I'm too busy right now. I'm not going to do it this year. So I went in, and I had never been anywhere. And I picked up a side, and I read it, and I didn't get the part, but I ended up being Judd in the dream sequence. Anyways, in Oklahoma. So the next year, the guy playing the lead in a home-written musical, and it was a big CBC director who ended up producing Beachcombers here.
Oh.
In the second part of, or the end of Beachcombers, the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. He had written a musical with a lady named what was her name? Agnes Loderuicki. How I can remember that name, I don't know. Anyway, it was called The Republic of Manitoba, and it was about how Manitoba was going to be taken over, they feared, by the Americans coming up in the turn of the century before it had become a province. So they got together to form a republic. And the guy that had auditioned for it, they'd done it 10 years before, and they were going to do it as they were going to redo it as a celebration of 10 years of being the musical theater called Interfaith Harmony Theater. So there was Jewish, there was a Christian, and anybody else involved in this group. So he was a Jew, and he got the lead part, and because he'd done it 10 years before. But he got a part because he'd auditioned for MTC, the professional theater in town, to carry a spear. So he said he wasn't going to do the show, and he was going to go carry a spear. So we had to audition, and I'd auditioned, and they had all liked me and realized they should have cast me. Then the last play really better. And so I had a nice little part with a little song, and it was a little nice little character. And the stage manager said, okay, we lost so-and-so, you're going to go to audition for the star character. And I said, no. And she said, yes, you are, get in there. And I said, no, I'm going to do that. She said, get in there. So I went in and auditioned, and I got the part.
Wow.
So then I ended up joining his amateur theater, the director's amateur theater group that just did new Canadian plays back in 1968, 69. And I just really started to really enjoy the stuff, and I ended up in 4 more groups.
Wow.
And but in the meantime, I also had got engaged, and the wedding date was set, and we had toured a little amateur show, and we got back from the show, and the girl that I was engaged to, we got into a talk, and she said, listen, I don't want you to do this anymore because it's taking up too much of your time.
Well.
And I said, well, yeah, but I really, really enjoy it, and I really like doing it. And she says, yes, but it's taking time away from me. And I said, well, yeah. Is that why you didn't tell me that you changed the date of our wedding? Because some of her relatives couldn't come. And she said, well, yeah, and so-and-so and so-and-so couldn't come from Edmonton. So we changed it. I said, well, you could have told me.
No kidding.
And so we ended up in this big fight, and she threw the engagement ring at me. And that was the end of that. So we went about another 6 months or so. And I figured I would come in for work at 10, and I would leave at 4 because I was doing too much theater and partying too much afterwards.
Yeah.
Because it was also really a social thing as much as anything.
Right.
But then I thought, oh, I'm probably end up going to get fired if I better do something different, because I'd been there 4 years and I was really getting used to the salary, and we were considered managers because we were computer programmers, but we were just ciphers of some kind. So I decided to audition for a theater school. I tried to audition for National, but I was too old. So I auditioned for University of Alberta, and I got into their program. But I was too old, and I had to submit as an adult student. So I had to go there for tests, and I had to write all these psychological exams, mostly choice.
Yeah, because University of
choice.
Alberta is also an academic degree, right? It was one of 2 schools.
And it's a 4-year program. Their BA programs were 3 years, but their BFA was 4. And I only had junior matric. I didn't have senior matric because I was a high school graduate from here. But I'd been a BCIT graduate, but they didn't count that. So if I'd had senior matric in Alberta, I wouldn't have had to write adult tests. And at the end of the tests, I had to go see the psych guy, and he said, well, no, you were good in all, you could, any of the arts, you're really good in teaching, social kind of stuff. I'll go, well, what did you say you were? I said, a computer programmer, and he looked at me and he went,
No, you're not. No, you're not. Yeah.
So and he said, so I got into the theater school, and it was sort of that evening as we had the fight I had a yellow Mustang, 67 Mustang, oh man. And so she threw the ring and it bounced off the door, and I eventually had find it under the seat. Anyways, it was probably started that evening that I started getting serious about how much I did like it, because it's the first time I'd actually said I actually enjoy doing it. But I did learn once I got to theater school from basically one individual who sort of said, Tom, she eventually at some point, maybe 2 years into our relationship as professional, in the theater school, of Tom, you have a small talent, look after it. But she also taught me about the importance of script, the writer, and the responsibilities to the script and the writer, and to your actors on the stage, and to the director, and to everything that was involved in putting the thing together. It still took me many years later to actually realize your responsibility was just as much to the audience as to all those other pieces. It had its percentage.
I went to York University.
Okay.
But you both have that kind of, there was a meant to be quality. And for me, even though I knew that I wanted to be an actor from the time I was like 3, and I did all the plays, and then I did community theater, and then I auditioned for York University and started there at 17. When I graduated, I auditioned for Shaw Festival, and I was accepted as an apprentice because I was too young to be in the main company. And it was just, 8 shows a week, and completely felt at home. And I was fortunate that my high school had a 1,000-seat theater, so I was used to the big theater, so it felt good and it felt right. And then I started a theater company when I moved back to Toronto, and I did a production of Tom Walmsley's show, and he performed in it as well. And so it drew some...
Which play?
It was The Jones Boy.
The Jones Boy.
And he appeared as the Trick. And I had to find him. I called my theater teacher, Ron Singer, and I said, I want to produce a show, and I'm not sure. And he said, there's this writer who's kind of underproduced, and I don't know why. His name is Tom Walmsley. Well, this guy was living under the radar. Like, I had to find him. So I found him, and he said, listen, I'm going to waive the rights. You don't have to pay me anything. And I said, no, I insist. There I am, 21 years old. I'm starting a theater company. I insist on paying you the rights. Would you consider playing the Trick? And he said, absolutely not. And I said, are you afraid? And apparently he had just made a pact with himself that he would never say no to something out of fear. And so he agreed to do it, and we became extremely close friends. And it was a very successful run, like lineups around the block. And so some of the people who saw it then contacted me and said, can we get a hold of the 2 actresses, because we need a young actress for this production that Necessary Angel is doing. And they were not available. I said, but I'm an actress too. And they were like, Okay, all right, you can audition too. And so I auditioned, I got the role, and that I got my equity ticket then. And then I had done a student movie at York that was screened by Adam Agoyan. I realized later that this is why he called me in to audition for one of his movies. And you were talking about how when you are first on set and you're a theater actor and you're waiting for some kind of feedback from the audience, and there's no feedback because you're in a movie and everyone has to be quiet. And so here I am as this young bride in Adam's second film, I think it was, and I'm playing this character who's being interviewed by Arsene Kanjan, and she's kind of asking these awkward questions of a young bride. She's supposed to just be the videographer at a wedding, but she's like, what makes you think you belong together? And it's getting very uncomfortable. And I feel like if I were on stage, people would be laughing, but nobody's laughing because I'm kind of using some clown, like we were taught clown. So it's all this energy stuff, and I'm like, where's the laughter? Because it's a movie. And then they would say cut, and then everybody would laugh. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was really cool to actually have that energy and have that exchange of energy, but it's just different. It's just different. And so there were kind of meant to be things like that for me. And then, and my agent that I ended up booking, I had gone to meet an agent, and they were like, I just don't know, I'm not sure. I'd walked down the hall, and one of the other agents saw me, and without telling me, picked up my flyer for the play I was in. I was doing No Exit at the Tarragon Theatre, and she had come to see me and signed me the next day. So I started doing some auditions. The head of the agency said to me, there's no reason you shouldn't be doing voice too. We do voice here at the talent group. And I thought, okay, yeah, great, I'd love to do voice. So I was temping at the time, so I'm working in an office. It's like, okay, you have a voice audition, to get on my bike, and I have to do a Nova Scotian accent. And I'm thinking, okay, I've only heard a Nova Scotian accent about twice in my life. Who settled in Nova Scotia? Scottish people settled in Nova Scotia, some English people settled in. So I'm doing a little Scotty from Star Trek in my mind. I got a little English here, and I came up with this accent. And it turned out it was a massive campaign for the Liberal Party of Nova Scotia. And so I booked this huge job that I did all summer long, and I was doing a Nova Scotian accent with Nova Scotian people on the line who were arguing about what neighborhood I was from in this particular part of this one town. So it was just, and that started my whole voice thing, which frankly is what sustains me when things are slow, like during COVID and everything else. Voice is such a huge part of my career right now.
Well, in theater school, I'm from Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
So in theater school, they had to, Catherine Shaw was my mentor there, besides Anthony Holland. And the note was always, slow down, because we talk so fast. Wasn't Nova Scotia, she said, just blah, 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 blah. And also diction, right? So I had to clear up. So it took me a while to get rid of the accent and to be able to diction and, to actually slow down and breathe.
Absolutely.
Because people out there in Nova Scotia, you'll be talking, and before you finish the end of your sentence, they'll start talking because they know what you're going to say, and so there's this overlap happening. I've had people run screaming from the room that weren't from Nova Scotia going, what? I can't.
I'm from a big family, so we do that too. People run screaming from the room too. Tell us a little bit about Scrooge and what he means to you. This play that you've been doing periodically over time, Christmas Carol, and the character of Scrooge.
So the last time we did it was before COVID, and probably 2 years before that. And we did 3 productions at the Belfry Theatre in Victoria. But every second or third year, so over 6 years we did it 3 times, or over 7 years we did it 3 times. Jerry McKay played Marley and the 3 Ghosts, and him and I went through the 3 productions, and a number of other actors went through the 3 productions. A lot of the kids changed. But as the same director and the man who did the adaptation, Michael Shimada, who had written the script many, many years before and had done it in Toronto, back in Halifax, directing it as well. He probably wrote it in the late 90s. And it's been done many, many, many times. It's a really good production. And actually, it was done this year at the Globe Theatre in Regina, his production, that is still running till January the 4th. It can't cover it can't cover the whole thing, but it was really honest about what's there, and it's his point of view on it. And there's some.
And what about the moment where Scrooge realizes that he's wasted his life, but somehow he still deserves some kind of redemption?
It's amazing how quickly he starts to realize how screwed up he is. The first time he's out with the Ghost of Christmas Past, he's at the school as a kid that he attended, that he was pushed into, and he starts to feel what he felt as a kid, and how lost and afraid he was, and it all comes back to him. Now he doesn't think about it. He doesn't actually learn that it's those things that turned him into who he is. That sort of happens as he continues experiencing his past and the present and and it's the future where he realizes that he does have to change. When he does see his headstone.
Yeah. Did you by chance see the production that's just, I don't know if it's still on, I think it is though, Christmas Carol with the Puppets at the Olympic Theatre? I just saw it. It was interesting.
Yeah, no, I would love to see that.
Yeah, only 4, I couldn't believe it was only 4 performers because, they come out and they sometimes a 10-foot puppet and sometimes just a normal human with the large heads. It's quite something, and it's virtually silent. Yeah. There's a little bit of surtitles, but yeah, it was interesting to...
Oh, no, I would have loved to have seen that. Yeah. Well, anyways, it's I don't know. It's probably the piece that I've been reintroduced more often, and each time we've worked on it, it's changed. Michael would say, "Well, let's think about it this way this time." All the times I've directed the show, I've never thought of it in these terms. And that's probably where I sit with the most I've got out of it is with the last way we sort of approached it, that he didn't start out as he wasn't the mean guy.
Okay.
He was just this impatient man who couldn't understand the world around him.
Yeah, so the relationship with Cratchit is kind of, there's a impatience in dealing with him as...
Yeah, I think it started with just his impatience with him and how stupid the man was. Like everyone else was stupid. But eventually got to the point where they weren't so much stupid as they just didn't pay attention to what the real world was. And he was quite comfortable with his real world. And so he wasn't threatened by someone like Cratchit, who was asking for leniency for this group of people. And it was more like, you must understand, young man, the way the world really is. So please try to do that. And with a nephew that comes in to ask him to come to visit, look, you just live your way, I'll live mine, and I'm not going to knock the way you live. Well, I will ask you why you did get married. Why did you marry?
Is it because your character's forgotten about Belle and her...
And when he says, well, for love.
Because of love. Does he not represent the loss of Fan? Is that where it...
Oh, eventually. But he's handled all that. he has that.
He thinks he has.
He has it in the suitcase, and it's packed away. And in his real life today, you don't have to deal with that kind of stuff. And it's when the nephew's there at some point. He is. Why did you marry? Like there's it's a little question like, why did you marry? And he says, well, I married because of love. And of course, Bill just wants to just come up in him. And he just knows how it starts to come up, and he just takes it and he pushes it down.
And gets angry.
No, he doesn't get angry. Love. And he tells what he went through. He doesn't tell it. He just says how stupid, how idiotic that stuff is.
Right.
And that's the excuses he's made so he can keep his spine.
Right.
And he doesn't have to fight he has to suppress his own feelings to keep his spine, but it's not to say you're wrong. It's to suppress what's coming up in him. So it's a whole other way of dealing with life rather than just being angry with everyone. Anyways, it's just an interesting way to go about life as well.
Well, see, in this version that you sent, this version that I was reading.
Well, it's the same version we did.
Yeah. It always felt like he would rise up when Cratchit says the Trotters are good people, right? They're debtors, fuck you, shut up. But it's like Cratchit's a bit of his conscience in a way speaking, and then Belle or the nephew, a little bit of conscience rising, and he has to push that down every time.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not something that you play through the thing. There's only, it's like any play you're in. You know, you go with the rule of you can only yell once.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no matter how angry you are, you can only yell once, and you can only cry once.
Yeah.
So. I know I had a lot of fun with the impatience and trying to control the anger, the control of the anger, and so that you didn't yell more than once. But you could see that there was anger in him, and we got to the point where the anger became his own anger, the anger with himself at some level.
Yeah, it's interesting with acting how sometimes the thing that you're playing is the thing that you're not allowing yourself to play. The character, you know, if you're angry, but you can't allow yourself to be angry. If you know, I played a role once where I'd been actually shot in the face and the bullet was lodged. I was a real person I was recreating, and the bullet was lodged in the back of behind the spine. But not knowing that, and coming downstairs and not being able to breathe. And I was young, and I was trying to not breathe. And Jerry Chickweedy was directing, and he said, try to breathe.
Try to breathe.
Try to breathe, you know. And it's like that when we were talking about anger, trying to push anger down, but you know, and that shows that you're angry, trying to not be angry, you know.
In Chekhov's Three Sisters, in Chekhov's plays, there's usually a speech by the male somewhere where he goes through something of his life in some way, and in the middle of it, it says he cries. And this production of Three Sisters we did, the actor playing the brother of the three sisters has married a lady that he really dislikes, I think, but doesn't admit that. His sisters despise her, and she is a real bag of a lady. But he's, in the first act, he's this person that has all these visions of what he wants to do in his life, all these goals, and he's this positive guy. And by the time you get to the second act, he's now working. It's the second act. He's now working in town for the mayor or the manager of the town or whatever it happens to be. and he's sort of a bit of a cipher. And he's in the garden on his own, and they have a baby, and the baby's in the carriage. And he's writing some stuff, and there's a knock on the gate, and he goes to the gate and opens it, and a messenger comes in from town with a message from the head guy in town, his boss, that he hands it to him, and he reads it, and he's got to do something. And he says, okay, just wait here. And he looks at the thing, and the old guy's an old deaf. He's deaf and he's old, but he's still just trying to make a living. So he looks at it, he reads this thing, and he just goes, he realizes how disgusting his life has become, that he's just this cipher. And he looks at the man, and he looks at the baby, and he goes through his life from where he began in his dreams, and where he is now, and what he's going to become. And it's a really beautiful soliloquy. And the actor playing the part was having a hell of a time with it, because he was doing it in an angry way. He was going, I started off with this, and then I became this, and now I'm this, and that's what I'm going to become. And so at one point he asked me, he said, I'm having trouble with this, what do I do? And I said, well, you sit at the table, and you look at the child, and everything you say now is the truth. And you work through it image by image, and you get to looking at that man, and you can't help but cry. You're a piece of shit. And the tears, you can't stop yourself. And I'd learned that from a designer on a Chekhov I'd done in theater school. And because the director wanted me to get up and scream and yell, and the designer said, don't you dare do that, you just sit there. And you do it. So then his partner, who became a famous Canadian director in Canada, stage director, told him that was wrong, that he had to get up and yell and make a lot of noise, so he did. And of course the audience never hears you when you're yelling for any length of time. And so he missed the whole thing. And it's one of the great things, the most important things in a character that you can do is do it quietly. And as honestly as you can in your head. You can grab an audience and you can just get into their hearts and their minds. And you can't do it when you yell.
Yeah.
So the one yell is the one yell. And you cannot, and you can't cry too often. You can get to the point of just where you're going to, and then you've got to swallow it and come out of that and let the audience do it.
Well, also, we were talking in the break about us playing bad guys a lot. And
I've played a lot of bad guys too.
We're off going get your car fixed. So I'm never talking about being bad guys. But I had learned from Tom about when in that movie Quarantine, that you can have so much fun, and that's what I started to really play with that in my characters when I play bad guys. But whenever it says in the script, a film script specifically, he's yelling or screaming, I go just the other way, completely the other way. And because of that "see ya" line, again, that brings me back to this where my career became about, Garwin came in and did risks in the room. The risk was to do it. I'd work at it till I would find my hook that was different, something that would turn it on its head from how they had written it and described it. Because, as we know, a lot of television and film stuff is quickly written. They don't have the chance, not like plays that have been sweat over, and every word. I would never ever consider changing a word from a play. My job is to make sure that I do what's written. But in television and film, it's not that developed. So you get to play and add lines and start to do things because you do that. But that's the one for me, was to turn them on their head. And that's what I became known for. That's what I got hired for, was I'd come in with something that was, oh, I didn't even think of that. Because I was looking for something to make me happy.
Yeah.
I didn't want to yell and scream. I hate yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen very often. I don't want to yell and scream.
But then you got to the point in this business here. I mean, I think I started that way in the film and TV business, but then when we got to the point here where you could not change a word in one of the series stuff, where you were just locked in.
Well, it's because of the lawyers had already okayed everything, so that's.
Yeah. But then I got to the point of, I went back to always paying attention to the script, probably to my detriment in the auditions, where you try and plumb exactly what's being said there, and finding yourself locked in to stuff, and trying to do the best you can with that, thinking, well, yes, he did that really well, but he wasn't very interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get Garwin in to do this. You and I have talked about some of our spiritual inner things. What about yourself?
Well, just talking about bad guys to begin with, I mean, it's something that fans often ask about too, is like what's going on behind the scenes in the mentality of this Nirrti character or whomever it is. And as actors, we're always playing subtext. We're not playing the language. We're not playing so to be playing an evil character or a bad guy, that character is always all about the subtext. Whatever they're saying is not what's really going on. And they have the agenda. And the agenda will, if you're a bad guy, will frequently be a secret agenda. And I mean, my career on TV, I was always cops or kind of killers. I was, they were the undercover cop. And, so it was always kind of that, it really emphasized subtext all the time, what's listening and playing what's not actually on the surface and what's on the page. I mean, I've really enjoyed Nirrti because, as you say, a bad guy doesn't know he's a bad guy. Well, Nirrti, for example, is trying to improve science and build on a scientific development to create the most highly developed and so everything, even though people may die, a planet may be blown up, a child may be sacrificed, it's all for the greater good. And that's the, like when you're talking about the Scrooge character, it's like, I'm living in the real world here, people. Like, you can talk about all this kind of peripheral nonsense. It's really not what we're after here. But my favorite characters probably have been on stage, to be honest. And we were talking about silence as opposed to yelling. I did Killer's Head, and Killer's Head it's a character who is is about to be executed in an electric chair. So with a blindfold, Sam Shepard, yeah. Okay. So I'm playing a male character, but obviously I'm playing it as me, and as me physically. So I'm trapped in a electric chair. I have a blindfold on, and it's a 7-minute monologue with a 2-minute silence in the middle of it. And so you can't use your body, and you can't use your eyes, and basically it's the mentality of this killer before the execution. And this 2-minute silence, you have to be performing silence in a way that keeps everyone present in the audience on the edge of their seats and completely wondering what's happening, but knowing it's not like, oh, the actor forgot her line. No, there's no question. No line has been forgotten. You're going to sit there and you're going to suffer and feel the subtext, because you're not hearing the text at all. So that was definitely one of my favorite characters. And
Sam Shepard, challenging.
Yeah.
Challenging writer. I mean, Kirsten Starter Class is one of my favorite plays. I love that play.
Yeah.
And Cowboy Mouth.
Yeah.
He was arguably one of our I think, shining lights when it came to modern playwriting.
Yeah, yeah.
And I always thought about that specific challenge, to sit there for that long, and how do you engage an audience, right?
Yeah.
How did you?
Well, it was
What did you?
it was at that time, you know, I was very into breaking down a script, like every single level of intention and the emotion that came as a consequence of the intention. Everything was as a consequence of an action, even though the action was like what I am doing, not physically. Obviously, I'm trapped in a chair, but I am making a point. I am making a stand. I am gathering myself, and I'm going to go out the way I choose. And even though there's complete limitations on everything physically, I can't see. Presumably, it's silent. But I'm taking some control of those last minutes of life. And so it was so, and again, I mentioned learning, going through university and learning clown and everything else, and learning energy. I was doing a lot of energy work, and I could really feel exchanges of energy with the audience, so that we were in a space together and everybody felt that elevation of energy. It was not a normal space. And you have to release it, and then people can release. But they're not just sitting there relaxed and sitting back. And at least that's how it felt for me. And apparently that's like another play that I did early days was the Woolgatherer, William Master Simon. And this is a character she's got some restrictions, mentally. She's got some mental health issues, and she's not a sophisticated person, and she brings a man home to her apartment, and she borrows his sweater. Eventually he finds out she's got a collection of sweaters, but she has a monologue in the middle where she talks about going to the zoo and seeing these cranes basically being murdered. Kids were throwing rocks and breaking their legs, and it becomes this allegory for her life of this powerlessness, this figure of beauty and fragility being basically destroyed by this kind of outward cruelty. And in this monologue, she's basically saying, I have to, because people don't care, I have to care for everyone. And it was so, I felt so completely at one, we were in a space all together. And that's something that very rarely can happen on a film set, I find, but it can happen. But in the theater, because of the special space that it is, it's really a sacred space. The energy can become almost like a circuit. And I've felt that at moments, certainly in theater, and occasionally in film.
But I think it has to be a circuit. It has to be a circuit. When the audience is there, if it's not feeding back, you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
It's not working, but when it works, and when it doesn't work, you know it.
Have you had a character that's been especially meaningful to you, where you've had that experience?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I've had a ton.
Yeah.
Well, not a ton, but lots. I've been really lucky as a stage actor. Big Death of a Salesman, you sort of go like, and I got to do that twice. And the second time, if it's a really neat character and you get to play him twice, wow.
Mm-hmm. I haven't done theater in so long. I think I would have such terrible stage fright. I've only done one play since I moved to Vancouver 22 years ago. And it was a great experience. It was a great experience.
Yeah. Well, Anthony Holland said to me once, he goes, if you, in your acting career, get to have one moment where you are at the right age, at the right time, with the right director, with the right project, once in your life, count yourself lucky. I haven't found it yet. I have not. I've had I've loved, there's been roles that I've done that I'm really proud of and that I've enjoyed, but nothing that I feel like it was that, rung that bell yet.
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't given up, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to have it before I can't remember my lines.
Yeah, same for camera. I hope to have something.
Well, I've done
really
about
soon.
130 plays, professional plays. So the chances of having a couple of good ones are
Yeah.
really great.
That's astounding. I've done one professional play. I got at a theater school and did Basta with Gina Bastoni.
Oh, wow.
And it was a mixture of mask work, comedian work, clown work.
Wow.
And I've never been in a play. We rehearsed for 6 months because there were so many physical things, and Gina and James Keelan, perfectionists, and so every routine that we did had to be perfect, right? And the pieces were really challenging for the audience and but it was always about to be funny. And I've never experienced this in my whole life since or before. But at the end of every single performance, we closed off with a certain piece, a mask piece. The audience was quiet for about 10 or 15 seconds, and then they leaped to their feet every single time.
Cool.
Gina and James were geniuses. They did their work, comedic and social comment, and we had a piece called the Jesus piece, which just freaked people out because it took on religion in a certain way. But anyway, regardless, that's the only play I've ever done, because I started right after that. I started getting film work and then didn't stop. I was just doing all the time. I was doing the first year I got 12 or 14 jobs. The next year was 16 and 18. I just kept working, and I kept going. And I love the intimacy, right? But I still regret to this day that I didn't keep it up. 130 plays. It's like astounding.
Well, it's a business that I know, and I still am totally uncomfortable in front of cameras. I don't understand them. I have no interest in figuring out, what lens are you using? Okay, I'm okay over here, that kind of stuff. And I respect people so much on the work that they're doing that I think that when I'm on a set, it's okay, I can talk to ASMs, I can talk to people at Craft, I can talk to a fair number of people, but I will not go and spend any time bothering the director because they're busy. Or the DOP, or the camera guys, or the lighting guys, or the guy pushing it's just, they're doing their job. I can't interfere with that.
I always think of the camera as it's almost like a person in a way, but it's a person who's psychic, person who can see through any artifice that I have, the person who knows the subtext of the character, who knows that I'm not actually good if I'm playing a bad guy.
Well, I mean, I'm just the opposite, because I was always...
Because you go talk to everybody.
I would sit, and I'd be right
and I respect all those people that can.
I'd be right next to the director, because I wanted, and I ended up directing a little $500,000 feature a number of years ago. I wanted to direct, and I wanted to put that together. But what you're talking about is that I have a lot of directors talking about, the camera's not there, you're just by yourselves. And I'm going, no, that's another character in the show. And it's the audience.
Yeah.
So we talk about not having an audience. I believe I do have one, and it's right there in the camera. And I really play to that. I forget the guy's name now, but he coined a phrase called window of true nature. And it's where every show I do, I try to find a window of true nature, which means I show that character, the camera, something that I don't show anybody else in the show. None of the other characters see this. They'll never ever see this reveal of the messy. All prim, the messy. It gets revealed in this moment, and sometimes it's with your back to the camera, backting, I call it.
Backting.
But there's a moment where I know that no one else sees me, the characters aren't looking, and I can give the audience that moment to show a window into who I am, and then close it shut right away and then move on. That's what I look for. I look for those moments where I can bring those levels, and where can I pick them out? And I do as many as I can, so that it's like a secret. It's when you're unguarded. Every character has moments that are unguarded. You don't do it in front of everybody, but you do it when no one's watching.
Yeah, nice.
But then you know that the audience is watching.
Yeah.
Let's share it with them.
Well, it's nice to be able to do this with you, Garwin, and with you, Tom. If we'd met at conventions in the past, but if the industry hadn't changed the way it has since COVID, we might have run into each other in audition rooms multiple times. And it doesn't happen anymore since COVID, and every actor had to become a technician and start recording their own private auditions. And, you know, many actors will have their co-reader on Zoom, or they have to have their partner, who might not be a professional in the industry, do it. And we all have to figure out that the lights and the camera, that, you know, are we using an iPhone or a different camera, and the backdrops and all of that. It's really changed everything. And for me, it felt very distracting. You know, initially just like, oh my gosh, I'm just thinking about how to shoot an audition as opposed to how to do my audition. How was it for you?
Well, it's a disservice to all parts of the process, right? I find that when I went into the room, you did have an audience. You know, there's those people there, so you are prepped for a performance. And you also are selling not only your craft, but you're selling your knowledge of what that is. So when you come into the room, you can inform them how much you know about film by the questions you ask with just the shooting, or asking for framing, the choices you make, you know, in the room, and then you get the opportunity to ask them a question. And I would always have something to ask them, even if they said, well, let's get moving. I said, well, just have one question. I want them to show, hey, I'm thinking and I'm an actor, and I want to find out who I'm working with, right? And now that's completely gone, because you do it in front of a camera, like you said. The disservice for them are a disconnect from who the actor is as a person, what kind of energy they're going to bring to the room.
Yeah.
But also, you know, it's like, why would they pay me to entertain an audience if I don't entertain them in the room? Like, make them want to see more of me.
Yeah.
So you've got that happening. Then for them, they get completely removed. One of the things the casting people are saying that there's complaints have been in the past is that some of the actors who may not be up to that part of the role will film this thing 40, 50 times until they get the one that worked, right? And then they see
and then they
hire them, and then they ask them to do something slightly different, and they're lost.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So that's another complaint they're saying. It's the disservice is on all sides.
Yeah.
I understand this world now, all through machines, and we I don't know how many times someone texts me and I'll call them right away. Hi, I just want to hear your voice. I don't want to answer in texts all the time. I want to connect, right? So, but they've discovered that they don't have to block off in pre-production, which is very busy, 3 days to see actors in a room all day long. They can now take the tape, and they're on the toilet, they're having dinner, they're driving, someone's driving them wherever, so they just look at them willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Again, disservice. They're not focused on what it is that's happening for this section. So I think it's disservice to all of us. And I don't think it'll ever come back, because it's about this, as always.
Yeah, and the fact that, you know, there is an audience, and there is this amount of stage presence that they can feel, and there's chemistry, and so the chemistry element is really, unfortunately, out the window. Yeah.
And I'm selfish. I think that the way I can play, I love to audition. I love going into an audition room where it's this completely anti-acting, right? You've made all your choices, because there's nobody, you're not going to trust that you're going to get something from the reader. So you make all your choices, which is completely anti-acting. You're not working with anybody, but you're just creating something. I love that. The challenge of it is to make it real for them, and also charm them, make the room work for you, right? And as a result, I used to work.
Yeah.
And now when it's, hi, my name is Garwin Sanford, I'm from Vancouver, I'm 6'2", and I'm a member of the union. That's all they see of you.
Yeah.
And you can't put much personality into that, and then you see the read. You do it good or not.
At the end of that, I do always add, and I'm available.
At the end, I say, thanks for, when they do the thing, I'll say, thanks for having me audition, right? But there's not much you can do with that.
Yeah.
So I'm a little upset because my skill set was to sell in the room and do the job.
Yeah.
Right? And that gets pulled away. So, and I miss,
I'm with
because
you.
I don't do theater, I miss that, because that's when I got to perform. And honestly, a couple of the best performances I've ever done in my life were actually in an audition room.
Yeah.
I never even got to repeat it on when I did the day. I must have disappointed them. I guess it wasn't as good as, I didn't think it was as good as when it was in that room. But,
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, it's all the same. It's all the same for me too. It's I don't think I was as good in the room as you, but I did enjoy going in and being with real people, and especially given the way we have to do stuff now. And over 6 or 7 years now of doing it this way, and the very little success that I've had over that time is really debilitating. See, I'm now 4 months shy of being 80 years old.
Wow.
And
You don't look it.
well, it doesn't help me that I don't look it though. When they want to hire a 70-year-old, I don't look 70 even, so that they say.
Yeah, you do.
So one of the things that I have come to is that having done this last piece of theater that I enjoyed so much, and how much I have enjoyed doing theater in the past, I want to do more. So I'm going to do every effort I can to do more theater, even if I have to go up and do it in small theater up in Prince George or Kelowna or Kamloops or here in Vancouver, which is a bit hard to do. Here in Vancouver, there are some nice smaller theaters that do interesting stuff, but too many of them are sort of do their own stuff with their own people, their own writing, their own things, and it's hard to sort of to get your foot in the door for them, even though you let them know that you're available. There are the few like Pacific Theater that do some really interesting things, but there are some really good actors, stage actors in this town. And not enough places for us all to work. And the Arts Club, which is the big theater, does mostly entertainment. So, and entertainment is a big part of what they're looking to do, and they'll spend their money to get people to come in on the entertainment level, not necessarily what I think theater has to be or should be. And that's what I want to do. So I don't get the opportunity to do it in film, and I'm not a filmmaker myself, and I don't have the will or the energy or the knowledge or the capacity to want to make films. I've always been a bit lazy that way, and I figure that it's the work that I do will get me the work that I want to do. And in theater I can do that. So I know enough people in town here that I can get the odd job, and I'm going to make more of an effort to do that.
Nice.
To the point that I'm going to actually do, they call them community theater now. So there's one theater in town called United Players that does some really good stuff, and there's and having started in amateur theater, I love the energy in the amateur theater. I recall how much fun it was to come in and do that stuff, and there was no people with their noses in the air, and there was no people judging what you did. And then you also went in to help paint the sets and to clean up and sell tickets and do all that kind of stuff. But United Players also does a lot of really interesting plays. And they can hire 2 equity people. So I'm going to do Network with them this spring.
Great!
Oh, fantastic.
Great!
And
great.
playing Max Schellenberg.
Fantastic.
And that's a
come and
really
see
neat
it.
part. And he has some really nice scenes with Faye Dunaway's character. And with his wife, there's a couple of really nice theater scenes. The rest of it is something quite different, but that'll be fun too. All the technical stuff with cameras and stuff. So
Excellent.
So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, and it's not going to be putting a lot of effort into trying to get film and TV work, because the level that the auditions come in at now, you just look at them and go, well, you don't need an actor for this. You don't need somebody who's looking to where does the character start, where do they grow to, and where do they come to. There's never an arc in this stuff unless you're auditioning for a character, a running character in a series where you do get a bit of an arc that you can play. So that's, I think that's where I'm going to, as long as the P-brain up here works, that's where I'm going to put my efforts in my final years.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, final years. It's been, I'm 70 now.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about the last 1/8 of my life, or whatever is left. Right? What is it I want to do? Right? How do I, in my career? Because if I had the success rate that I've been having since COVID, in the beginning, I would have done something. I would have gone back to flying without a doubt. I would have been gone, right? But yeah, it's interesting. It's a question that I've been facing too. Is what's next?
Yeah.
What am I actually doing?
I'm going back to some writing, and writing used to be a big piece of my career. But having kids, I realized I was putting all my writing energy into writing our family life or something, because I just couldn't do it at the same time. But and fortunately, voice work is something that I can continue doing. Mm-hmm. So I actually told my agent I was taking a little bit of a break for on-camera stuff, because I was so disheartened by the kind of stuff that was coming through.
Yeah.
It just wasn't exciting, and I felt kind of like it wasn't going to do anything for me personally. It wasn't going to do anything particular for my resume, and so I just said, let's just take a little bit of a break. But if something special comes, and I'm still waiting, it's been a few months. So
my agent's been very, very patient with me, because I keep saying no to so many of these things that come in, and I say, I'm sorry, I can't. Mm-hmm. I can't bring myself to read for that. Mm-hmm.
So the way we do auditions now with that new system, that took you a while to figure out where you accept or decline and all this kind of stuff. And when you decline, the little box comes out, please give us a reason why.
I guess my agent does.
The truth.
Yeah, my agent does that for me, I think, because I don't see it.
You can't handle the truth. That's what you want the truth. No.
I said, why you're turning the roll down. I'm too old and I'm too cold. Yeah. And I don't know. To be a young actor nowadays, I think if you've got the right kind of spark for yourself, you're going to do well. But there's so many film schools now, so many students coming out of those. There's so much disappointment for so many people. Maybe it pushes them into other areas, though. Instead of becoming actors, they become something else.
Well, they actually, the film school that I started, I was co-founded up at Glengarry College. We taught them how to produce. We made them do everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they made 2 festival shorts, festival-ready shorts every 8 months. We made 24 every 8 months, but each student has to have 2 for that period of time. And so many of them found that what they came in to learn wasn't what they ended up liking. Mm-hmm. You know, my daughter went in for writing, for example, and now she's one of the best script supervisors in the city.
She didn't want to be a pilot?
Yes, she does, actually. She keeps saying, I'm going to start flying again soon, actually, as she wants to. But she started as a writer, and then because we exposed her to script supervising stuff, that sounds okay. And then when she got out, she directed and wrote a piece, and then went, I'm going to try this.
It's great.
And within 6 months, she was, a year and a half after she started, she was script supervisor on Supergirl.
Amazing.
So it's like, so she found her niche, and now she's working constantly.
Fantastic.
See, back in my theater school days, you weren't allowed to do anything except be an actor.
Yeah,
Right.
same.
So you couldn't do a musical. You couldn't work outside of the program either. And you're an actor. You're not a writer. You're an actor.
Interesting.
You're not a director. You're an actor.
Wow.
So you never got to explore all that stuff, and that was what's so interesting about studio, was they had to do everything. Now we had to work backstage. We had to learn to do backstage so we could respect what backstage people did. But we weren't. But that wasn't. You're being actor
The only
trained.
exception at York University,
This was at
This is a U of A.
U of
In
A.
Studio 58, it was just the opposite.
It's no more. It's not that way anymore.
Oh, okay. Studio 58 was the opposite.
yeah, it was
we had to. We
had to
on
write
4
stuff.
plays a term.
Yeah.
We had to write a piece. You had to do backstage. You crewed for the first year. You weren't allowed on. In fact, you weren't allowed on stage for the first year.
Yeah.
You're training to be an actor. They wouldn't let you be on stage.
Yeah.
Right. So.
At York University, the exception was the New Play Festival. And so Brad Wright would write plays for the New Play Festival, and I directed one of his plays at York. And then he, immediately after finishing university, was writing for TV and came out to Vancouver shortly after. Yeah.
But I don't know how that. I still don't. I just wonder the young actors coming out in the way the business works nowadays. I mean, we hit it really lucky here in this city. When the business hit here, the only actors in town were stage people, and there was only one agent, Marie Morton, who she had taken over from
Lloyd
from a Toronto company.
Lodge, Jerry Lodge.
Was it Jerry Lodge?
Yeah, she had used that name, Jerry Lodge. She was my agent, and then she changed. She goes, "Well, I'm paying them to use the name." So she then became Marie Morton Town.
And all us actors we'd all signed up to do commercials. And you just walk in and you say, "Hi, would you be an agent for me?" She'd say, "Oh yeah."
Like having your grandmother from.
And then the business hit, and you would get phone calls from Marie saying, "Why am I calling you?" And I'd say, "Well, I don't know, Marie." And she'd say, "Just a minute." And then she'd come back. She'd, "Oh yeah." And then the other agents, they just started. Dozens and dozens came. And
Vancouver is a great place to work.
What do kids? Well, I even thought then there were so many theater schools going that putting out their 10 actors a season, and only 3 or 4 of them would get into the biz, were good enough to get there in theater or wherever. But nowadays there's just so many film and TV schools and theater schools that the number of students coming out, I just think, how can they do that? How can they survive? What's it like? You'd have to be pretty special.
Yeah.
Or determined.
Yeah, determined.
Yeah.
The fact that theater is a place where we all get to, as an audience member, I just saw A Christmas Carol, and it was beautiful to be in the audience and be part of that experience. And it's great to see that, that audiences, I think, are growing for theater, partly because there has been more of a chill on personal connections since COVID, and people are ready to kind of connect again. So that's beautiful. And frankly, people are going to the movie theaters more. They've changed that experience so that it's more human and more fun. So, I mean, I think our work is always going to be based on connection.
Well, theater has been dying, they said, for hundreds of years, but it keeps itself going somehow, because there is a will by some people to want to create stuff like that, to get up there and do it, to get involved in it. A group of actors that I saw 2 nights ago, or it was last night, put together an odd evening of The Winter's Tale. Some of them have done a lot of Bard, so there was some Shakespeare actors there, but there were a few that weren't Bard people, that haven't done a lot of Shakespeare. But they did the first act of Winter's Tale, and then they did sort of a modern version of what that might be like with a couple. And but they also had their children involved. Some of them, as they changed scenes, the kids would come on, and the way they adjusted the script, the kids would sing a tune of some kind that would fill in the space between that scene and the next scene. And it was all set with a Christmassy kind of feel stuff, with Christmas trees and stuff in the background.
Sweet.
And it was done with no money, absolutely no money. And it was actors that wanted to do something, to create something.
Fantastic.
So I think somewhere in there, theater will always survive in some way or another.
Well, it was like Jay Brazeau and Catherine Sean doing Angry Actors.
Yeah.
They were so upset with the paucity of roles that were out there. They would get together, and Suzanne Ristic and Jay Brazeau and Catherine Shaw would direct, and they put on some of the best pieces.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, they don't do it. It was something that I remember was striking for me at the time. I thought they were so tired of not being able to do anything. They created their own work, and that's again where the heart of theater is. The people desire to get out there and say something. It's really cool.
Well, Western Goa'uld Theater does readings of stuff, and I get involved in the public readings where they'll actually do stand-up blocked readings with stuff and invite an audience over a weekend. Nice. And those sell pretty well. And but you do get to play around with the script for a week before the audience comes in. And
you get to have the script and you get in your hand, and away you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
well, this has been great for me. This conversation, just to actually be in a room with other actors and have a conversation about acting. It's been a pleasure.
Well, it's so isolating now. So this has been a treat. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Kudos to Mr. David Reed here.
Indeed.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us.